You know, it is outrightly hilarious to see an immigrant chasing out other immigrants out of the US. Donald Trump is not an American. This is the empirical truth. This is the historical truth, but many of you will hardly swallow it. Donald Trump is not indigenous to America. He's an invader. His ancestors are immigrants who massacred and slaughtered over 100 million Native Americans in 1492. People of the sun and lovers of knowledge and truth, I present to you Christopher Columbus, an ancestor of Donald Trump. Christopher Columbus was the man who slaughtered over 100 million Native Americans in the year 1492, just because he wanted to steal the land and handed it over to the white Europeans, which is the ancestors of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's ancestors, that is the Europeans, were in desperate need of new lands to occupy and settle. Spain was the leading European power. The Europeans needed new land where they can exploit. Their aim was to discover Asia, precisely India, where they were told that there are vast land and enough gold. There were European voyagers who were ready to embark on this voyage. It was at this moment Christopher Columbus appeared, an Italian who is very cunning and mischievous. Christopher Columbus was having an affair with the Queen of Spain, Queen Isabella, the wife of King Ferdinand. She was the Queen of Spain who persuaded her husband to sponsor Columbus for his voyage. Now, in the year 1492, Christopher Columbus sailed with the enthusiasm of reaching Asia and amassed gold and land. Columbus and his men were frustrated on the journey. They could not get to India. He shouted at his men with bitterness and hatred and told them to turn back due to frustration. On their way back, they landed on an island believing they have reached India. Now, the people they saw there were called the Native Americans, but Columbus mistook them to be the Indians. Therefore, he called them the Red Indians due to their reddish skin. And this was how the name Red Indians came into existence. Christopher Columbus was informed that black-skinned people from Egypt in 800 BCE and black people from Mali in West Africa around 1311 have already come in contact with the native indigenous Americans. From 800 to 600 BCE, Africans from Egypt, Nubia, and Ethiopia landed in America and lived among the Native Americans. Around 1311, Mansa Abubakari II of Mali landed in America and had trade deals with the Native Americans. This was 181 years before Columbus even sailed. Now, when Columbus met with the Native Americans, Columbus saw steel metals and spears that are very identical to the spears and metals made in Africa after he was told of African presence in America. Columbus went back to Spain to report his findings and later came back to exterminate the native indigenous America. The Native Americans were slaughtered, some were poisoned, and many were enslaved. In fact, it was Christopher Columbus, one of Donald Trump's ancestors, who initiated modern-day slavery in America. Now, after drastically reducing the population of the natives of America, the Europeans from Europe flooded the land and became the new owners of America. There was the need for more active and healthy slaves after the extermination of the Native Americans, because the Native Americans were weak and were dying due to hard labor, coupled with European diseases and poisons given to the Native Americans. It was at this moment in the year 1517, Bartholomew de las Casas, a Catholic priest and a brother of Christopher Columbus, who advised the Spanish monarchy to work with the Portuguese in order to bring Africans as slaves to America. In fact, did you know that the first Africans to be used as slaves in America were the Moors, who were conquered by the Europeans in Spain? The Moors were black Africans who ruled Europe for over 700 years, since 711 AD. In fact, it was the Moors who gave civilization to the Europeans and established the first European university, which they named the University of Salamanca. America today is not controlled by the indigenous Native Americans, but by Europeans who invaded the land since 1492 under the leadership of Christopher Columbus. And these are the ancestors of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is not an American. He came to America after his ancestors invaded America through Columbus and took the land from the indigenous Native Americans. You have to wake up. Donald Trump that is chasing out immigrants is also an immigrant. Donald Trump cannot publicly come out and say that he's an indigenous member of America because he's not indigenous to America.